Hello everyone, welcome to the 100 Jury Charge and Literary. We're going to start off with a segment from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and this is on Learn to Live in the Present Moment. Okay, ready? To a large degree, the measure of our peace of mind is determined by how much we are able to live in the present moment, irrespective of what happened yesterday or last year, or what may or may not happen tomorrow. The present moment is where you are always. Without question, many of us have mastered the neurotic art of spending much of our lives worrying about a variety of things all at once. We allow past problems and future concerns to dominate our present moments so much so that we end up anxious, frustrated, depressed, and hopeless. On the flip side, we also postpone our gratification, our stated priorities, and our happiness, often convincing ourselves that someday will be better than today. Unfortunately, the same mental dynamics that tell us to look toward the future will only repeat themselves so that someday never actually arrives. John Lennon once said, "Life is what's happening while we're busy making other plans." When we're busy making other plans, our children are busy growing up. The people we love are moving away and dying. Our bodies are getting out of shape, and our dreams are slipping away. In short, we miss out on life. Many people live as if life were a dress rehearsal for some later date. It isn't. In fact, no one has a guarantee that he or she will be here tomorrow. Now is the only time we have, and the only time that we have any control over. When our attention is in the present moment, we push fear from our minds. Fear is the concern over events that might happen in the future. We won't have enough money. Our children will get into trouble. We will get old and die. Whatever. To combat fear, the best strategy is to learn to bring your attention back to the present. Mark Twain said, "I have been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened." I don't think I can say it any better. Practice keeping your attention on the here and now. Your efforts will pay great dividends. I think that's probably one of my favorite selections in this whole book. I love that. I've read it to my husband and kids as well. Okay, I'm going to read to you some jury instructions. Okay, here we go. Ready? Jury instructions. All right. Before the trial begins, there are certain instructions you should better have to understand your functions as a juror and how you should conduct yourself during the trial. Your duty is to decide the case based only on the evidence presented and the law given to you by the court. Do not let any personal feelings of bias or prejudice against any such things as race, religion, national origin, sex, or age affect your deliberations. Do not begin your deliberations and discussion of the case until all the evidence is presented and I have instructed you on the law. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else until your final deliberations in the jury room. We will stop or recess from time to time during the trial. You may be excused from the courtroom when it is necessary for me to hear legal arguments from the lawyers. If you come in contact with the parties, lawyers, or witnesses, do not speak with them. For their part, the parties, lawyers, and witnesses will not contact or speak with the jurors. Should you be exposed to any reports or communication from any source concerning the case during information to the jury bailiff. The court is aware that many of you've been exposed to publicity concerning this case before you were selected to serve as a juror. Each of you has committed to base your verdict only on the evidence introduced during the trial. It is of vital importance to the parties and the sanctity of the court process that you remain true to this commitment. Anything you may see or hear outside the courtroom is not evidence. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received at trial. Evidence is first the sworn testimony of witnesses, both on direct and cross-examination, regardless of who called the witness. Second, the exhibits the court has received. And third, any facts to which the lawyers have agreed or stipulated, or which the court has directed you to find. Attorneys for each site or side have the right and the duty to object to what they consider are improper questions asked of witnesses and to the admission of other evidence which they believe is not properly admitted. Not draw any conclusions from the fact that an objection was made by allowing testimony or other evidence to be received over the objection of counsel. The court is not indicating any opinion about the evidence. You jurors are the judges of the credibility of the witnesses and the weight of the evidence. You are not required to, but you may take notes during the trial, except during the opening statements and closing arguments. The court will provide you with materials. In taking notes, you must be careful that it does not distract you from carefully listening to and observing the witnesses. Okay, there's more, but I'm going to stop there. Just a few words that we came across that you can use as briefs or phrases. You can write these down. Jury room is J-U-R-M, germ, J-U-R-M. Obviously, if it's the word germ, you would use an E, J-E-R-M. From time to time, F-R-I-M-T. Let's see, what else? Oh, we came across bailiff, B-L-I-F, bliff. Verdict, V-E-R-D. Cross-examination, K-R-O-B-G-S. And I think that's it. I think those are the ones that I really saw that I wanted to point out to you guys. Okay, moving right along, we're going to continue with our story with A Part for Chris. Okay, here we go. Chris completed his special schooling at age 21. His family helped him search for a regular job, but dead end followed dead end. Chris was more than sharp enough to know that the world was shutting him out. He tried a sheltered workshop, but putting small items into boxes and sealing them made him terribly unhappy. He left after 2 weeks. Then his sisters lent a hand. Both now had families of their own and saw how careful and loving he was with their kids, especially with Ellen's daughter, Nora, who was confined to a wheelchair with Rett syndrome, a far more severe handicap than Chris's. Ellen went to talk with Nora's teacher and asked him about the possibility of using Chris as a volunteer. Soon Chris was helping out with Nora's class at New York City's PS 138, a school for children with severe disabilities. In his heart, though, Chris was still set on going to Hollywood. He had won first place in a local lip-syncing contest, but that, as his family pointed out, was a long way from Hollywood. At last, J.R. had a brother-to-brother talk with him. Chris, you've got to forget this Hollywood stuff, he said. It's never going to happen. But it could happen, Chris knew. When he was 19, he had seen a TV program that featured a 10-year-old actor named Jason Kingsley who had Down syndrome. Chris had written to Jason, congratulating him. Jason's mother, Emily Pearl Kingsley, responded with a warm note. Later, the Burkes and the Kingsleys met. Emily Kingsley remembered Chris when she was asked to recommend an actor with Down syndrome for a TV movie being made as a pilot for a series by writer-producer Michael Braverman. Jason was too young for the part, but Chris might be perfect. So it was that a Warner Brothers casting executive called the Burks. Marion answered the phone. Would Chris be interested in an audition? Let me ask him, Marion replied. She turned to Chris. Christopher, this lady wants to know if you would like to try out for a part in a movie for television, she said. Chris's eyes widened. Yes, 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 he whooped. I'm going to be in a movie. Ha ha, a movie. Finally, a call came for Chris to report to Los Angeles for his first audition with Braverman. Frank, who made the trip with Chris, let his son handle the session with ABC alone. When it was over, Braverman told Chris, "You've got the part." If the trip to Hollywood seemed like a fantasy, making the movie was even more so. There was Chris standing with the movie's star, John Savage, on a sun-drenched dock in Key West, Florida, surrounded by lights, sound equipment, cameras, and crew. Wherever he went, he was a one-man pep squad. He was happy and excited to be there, working on a wonderful project, and he didn't mind saying so. Down syndrome? No, Chris's new workmates were more inclined to agree with the term Chris had coined one day when he'd seen the letters on a brown delivery truck. Look, Mom, that stands for what I have. Up syndrome. The movie was broadcast in September of that year, but the network decided not to buy the series. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We'll finish this up in the next literary and jury charge class. We're going to finish this up with the closing arguments. Okay, all right. Here we go. If I have done anything to get you mad at me, get you annoyed at me, or in any way get you angry at me, hold it against me, but don't hold it against my client. She deserves better. In a long trial, you never know. Sometimes a lawyer does something that just rubs the jury the wrong way, and you don't hear about it until after the verdict is in. You know, if you knew about it, you wouldn't have done it in the first place, but it has been a long trial. So if I have done anything to bother you or upset you, don't ever come to me with legal work. But for heaven's sake, don't hold it against my client. She deserves better. Ladies and gentlemen, all I am asking for is justice in this case. Don't make what you saw happen in this courtroom profitable, because if it becomes profitable, my goodness, away we go. I am asking you based on the evidence, not because you like me or don't like me, based upon the evidence that I think is credible in this case. I am asking you for a defense verdict. Mr. Meso can in no way exonerate himself from liability, and setting up and contributing to this accident, and that bars him and the compensation insurance carrier from recovery of any nature. He has been well paid for this minor rinky-dink automobile accident out there that they are turning into a huge federal case. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, and that concludes our jury charge and literary for the 100 class. Have a great day.